Today on NewsWatch, President Obama admits Iran will likely build a nuclear weapon. We'll explain why he's still trying to convince lawmakers to support the deal with Iran. Plus, not backing down. See how believers in China are fighting for the cross. And
18-wheeler cut me up, like switched lanes and made me turn, so I turned into the median, hit the median, and flipped 9 times. And I was ejected from the car.
healing with oxygen, how an innovative technology is giving people a second chance at life. Thanks so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. The president is on vacation, but he is working hard to build support for his Iran deal and to discredit the opposition. Congress is expected to vote on the Iran agreement next month, and many believe it will try and shut down the deal. Our Heather Sells is on this story.
The president and his family have left the White House for a vacation in Martha's Vineyard, and lawmakers have emptied out the Capitol for their annual congressional recess. But the debate over the new Iran nuclear deal is red hot. One of the biggest critics is Senator Chuck Schumer, who's poised to become the leading Democrat in the Senate. He is calling for a new deal with Iran.
Given the many holes in this agreement, it's worth the chance to do it. It'll be hard.
Two leading Jewish Democrats in the House, Representatives Elliot Engel and Nita Lowey, have also announced their opposition. At least publicly, the White House remains undaunted.
We've got a strong case to make in terms of persuading members of Congress and the American public that this is, in fact, the best approach.
The White House has acknowledged that Congress will probably pass legislation to strike down the deal. The real battle will come later after the president vetoes it. Then the question will be whether Congress can gather enough votes to override the president's veto. And opponents of the deal have scored a coup. A former Democratic candidate for vice president, former Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman, will become the chairman of a nonprofit group that opposes the agreement. One of the biggest concerns right now, the deal does not permanently cut off Iran's path to a nuclear weapon. Even the president has acknowledged that when the agreement expires in 15 years, it would only take Tehran a matter of months to acquire the materials needed to build a bomb. And Republicans also want to see the text of the so-called secret side deals that are part of the agreement. In the end, says Schumer, there can be no arm twisting on such a decision. He says his was very personal.
This is not going to be one of those things where you can force anybody to vote. It's a decision of conscience.
And in the weeks ahead, other Democrats will be coming under heavy pressure from both sides to either approve or disapprove the highly controversial deal. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Meanwhile, Senator Schumer is facing the wrath of the left wing. The Hill reports that liberal activists and former top Obama administration officials believe his action may disqualify him from being the next Democratic leader of the Senate after Harry Reid. The Iranian-American reporter who was captured by Iran had his final day in court in Tehran Monday. Washington Post reporter John Rezin was detained in Iran more than a year ago and charged with espionage. His mother and his wife went to the court Monday, but were not allowed inside. Rezin is an American and he has Iranian citizenship. He is being tried by a revolutionary court which hears sensitive cases, including those related to national security.
He's very tired. He's very isolated. They don't have him with other people that he can speak with the same languages, English, Farsi, and so he is very isolated.
He is one of several Americans being held in prison by the Iranian regime, including Pastor Saeed Abedini, and CBN News has reported extensively on him as well. The Obama administration chose not to fight for their release as part of the Iran nuclear deal. A senior United Nations official has uncovered another disturbing Islamic State practice. The UN Special Envoy on Sexual Violence says ISIS has created a slave price list to sell its captured women and children. The envoy tells Bloomberg Business ISIS fighters can buy captured children for the equivalent of $165 US. Adolescent girls can be bought for $124. and women in their 20s are being sold for $85. The official says fighters will sometimes sell the children back to their families for thousands of dollars in ransom. The big crackdown against Christians and their churches in China may be getting worse. Government workers are forcibly removing more and more crosses from church buildings. And it is not underground churches experiencing this latest wave of persecution. Gary Lane reports this latest crackdown is against government-sanctioned churches and their crosses.
Another cross is forcibly removed in China's Zhujiang province. This one by government workers at Lower Da Fei Catholic Church in Wenzhou. Parishioners sing Christian hymns as their church cross comes down. Mr. Chen says the cross is in our hearts. The demolition is impossible to bear. Why do they not let us believe, he asks. Have we ever opposed the government? These parishioners say they are good Chinese citizens. The government insists there is religious freedom in China. But Christians believe that tearing down of crosses, now more tthan 1,500, mostly in Zhujiang, China, proves otherwise. Tu Shouzhua is a senior member of Muyang Protestant Church, also in Wenzhou. He says public security police entered his church complex by cutting the lock off a gate. They came in to demolish the cross without any agreement from our church, he said. They just did it. The latest church cross removals follow the arrest and interrogation last month of more than 200 human rights lawyers and advocates. Many have represented Christians in court. Bob Fu is president of China Aid, a Texas-based group that monitors Christian persecution and human rights violations in China.
It reflects the top leaders, the political leaders of the Chinese Communist Party, especially even President Xi Jinping. They are increasingly nervous about the political and economic instability and insecurity.
Christians are now risking possible arrest by resisting the government's cross removal efforts. Some are strapping themselves to crosses to prevent removal. Others are even standing atop their churches, surrounding the steeples to prevent cranes from operating. And even a prominent Chinese Catholic bishop made an unprecedented public rebuke of the government's cross removal campaign. He urged Christians to resist. Some are making small replacement crosses, painting them red, and placing them at their homes and along roadways in protest. Next month, China's President Xi Jinping is scheduled to visit Washington for an official state visit with President Obama. Congressman Chris Smith says the White House should reconsider giving Xi the red carpet treatment.
The issue of religious freedom must be addressed by the administration during a planned summit in September. We need our government. We need the president. He can do it as diplomatically as he wants, but to have some red lines about these human rights abuses that has gone from bad to worse.
The crackdown may not end anytime soon, regardless of outside criticism. Christians say rather than causing the spread of Christianity to diminish, the cross crackdown may result in more church growth. So the Chinese government may actually be causing the very situation it was hoping to avoid. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Ferguson, Missouri saw another night of unrest as protesters tried to mark the anniversary of the death of 18-year-old Michael Brown. Police arrested nearly 24 people. Those arrests came at a gathering that stretched into the early morning hours. Many spent Monday peacefully protesting, but that was interrupted by gunfire and a police shooting that left an 18-year-old critically injured. Some are now questioning that shooting. Officers were forced to don riot gear last night as they worked to prevent a repeat of the violence and looting the city saw on Sunday.
Unfortunately, this has been marred. All the good work that's happening, on both sides of the street has been marred by violence. And that's why we have to be here, and that's unfortunate.
Police also made arrests at demonstrations that blocked a busy highway and scuffles at a protest at the federal courthouse. An Ohio judicial board has ruled judges cannot refuse to perform same-sex weddings based on personal or moral or religious beliefs. The board also says judges who stop performing all marriages to avoid marrying same-sex couples may be considered biased. Those judges could then be disqualified from any case where sexual orientation is an issue. The ruling came after a Toledo judge refused to perform a same-sex wedding because of his religious beliefs. Municipal Judge C. Allen McConnell now says he will obey the board's ruling and would marry a same-sex couple if he is requested. Republican candidate Rick Perry has reportedly stopped paying all of his presidential campaign staff. The Washington Post reports the former Texas governor stopped paying all of his staff, including those in South Carolina and the Austin headquarters. Perry's campaign has been facing staggering polling numbers and sluggish fundraising. No word on if the pay suspension is permanent, but some staffers said they will continue to work as volunteers for the time being. Still to come here on NewsWatch, using the latest technology to bring some of the world's oldest scripture segments back to life. Technology is helping archaeologists unravel more mysteries than ever. Recently, scientists used the latest tools to study the charred remains of a scroll uncovered more than 4 decades ago. Chris Mitchell has the story now from Jerusalem.
These black charcoal-looking remains may seem like trash, but they contain hidden verses from the Bible.
When we reached the debris where we were looking for artifacts from the Holy Ark, we worked very carefully with paintbrushes and so on.
Archaeologist Dr. Sefi Parath found the scroll while digging in a synagogue.
We found something harder than the soft earth, and a long, thick cigar was observed for us.
Archaeologists found the fragment in 1970 in En-Gedi, and it took 45 years for a unique combination of technologies to decipher it, called micro-CT scanning and virtual unwrapping.
The actual instrument that was used to scan the scroll is at the Bar-Ilan University and is used for nanotechnology in order to do brain imaging and other imaging that is used for brain research.
Even with this technology, David Merkel and his team couldn't read the writing.
We had to pass over those images to the University of Kentucky, to Brent Seals of the Department of Computer Science there, and they were able to do virtual unwrapping of the scroll. It's actually kind of opening it up, and then they saw the writing within the scroll.
The significance of this find is that it is a Bible from 1,500 years ago.
Panina Shore heads the Dead Sea Scrolls project of the Israel Antiquities Authority. She says it's the first copy of the Bible found between the 2,000-year-old Dead Sea Scrolls and the 10th century AD Aleppo Codex.
And as such, it is very, very important because now we have it right in the middle. And to compare, this version of the Bible with, on the one hand, the material from Second Temple times and the Aleppo Codex, which serves, as the sample to copy from.
So far, they've been able to read the first 8 verses of Leviticus, which talks about sacrifices to God.
What's most exciting is that we're using the best possible technologies to help us decipher or work on antiquities, on the oldest material possible.
And this is just the beginning.
Well, there's also the possibility to apply the same technology to many hundreds of other artifacts that are lying in the vaults of the Israeli Antiquity Authority without anyone knowing what they might contain. Kind of a 21st century can opener, right?
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Up next, a revolutionary new treatment that's helping victims of trauma, strokes, and even autism. So, is this the right therapy for you? Find out when we return. It is a special treatment that uses something as common as the air we breathe. Lori Johnson shows us how oxygen can be used to help heal our bodies from even the worst of injuries.
It's hard to believe Michael Bean Black survived this horrific car crash.
18-wheeler cut me, switched lanes and made me turn, so I turned into the median, hit the median, and flipped 9 times. And I was ejected from the car.
And landed on his head. Even the doctors gave up hope.
After 3 days, when the doctor says we're going to take him off life support, and we says it's not going to happen. While he was in the coma, we put up a Beans recovery group on Facebook. We asked everybody that we knew for prayers, and they passed it on to everybody they knew, and we had prayers from all over the world. And I know that's what brought him out of the coma and that we could bring him home.
Michael still suffered from severe injuries, including brain damage. Things turned around after he started getting hyperbaric oxygen treatments.
He couldn't talk, hardly. I mean, he'd say things, but they were things that what? You know? And they started him in the hyperbaric chamber, and it cleared him up amazingly. We just couldn't believe it, so we just kept bringing him back.
Hyperbaric oxygen therapy involves breathing 100% pure oxygen inside a pressurized chamber for about an hour to an hour and a half. We normally only breathe about 20% oxygen. Dr. Alfred Johnson says this supercharged oxygen is a natural healer.
With that pressure being present, then the blood vessel is fully saturated with oxygen so that the tissues get 10 to 15 times more oxygen depending upon what the pressure is. Therefore, you get the increase in the healing process and the cell recovery process.
When I first started, I would come here in a wheelchair and have to be wheeled in and get out and go on one of the chambers. And then I moved to a walker, and then I moved to a cane. But it helped my muscles, because my muscles are really tense, and it relaxed them.
After the first 40 treatments, Michael went back for 40 more a few months later. Costs vary from as little as $100 an hour on up. Insurance and Medicare sometimes offer coverage depending on the condition being treated.
When I first started, I had a bad case of insomnia and couldn't sleep. And then every time I came here, and after I got done with the chamber, I'd go home and fall asleep. My memory has gotten a lot better because I couldn't really remember. Like, I would do something in the morning, by afternoon I'd forget what I'd done. Now I have a pretty good memory.
There's no question that people see the health benefits of oxygen. Just a few years ago, oxygen bars were popping up across the country. But that's a far cry from what proper treatments like hyperbaric oxygen therapy can achieve.
Mike, are you okay?
And it's easy.
They just put you in this nice glass tube, and you get to watch TV, and your ears kind of pop because they put you under pressure. No, it's just like breathing regular air. There's no difference.
Consumers can buy portable hyperbaric oxygen chambers, but they typically deliver far less oxygen and pressure than these industrial-grade ones. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is used to treat conditions like migraines, carbon monoxide poisoning, and stroke.
So you see people that are having trouble with walking, they have much better coordination, they have more strength, and many people are able to get back to normal functioning or close to normal functioning post-stroke.
It's also used by people with burns, hearing loss, and autism.
We see the most response with people with speech problems because there's some deprivation of oxygen. The brain cells aren't working quite right with the speech, and they're able to help with speech problems and recovery.
Hyperbaric oxygen therapy may not be for everyone, but today Michael Black is in far better shape than he or his family ever dreamed possible since his near-fatal car crash. They believe this therapy has a lot to do with his recovery, so they plan to stick with it and hopefully see even more improvement. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
An answer to prayer for many. Stay with us. We're coming right back. More than 13,000 Christian young people gathered for a historic youth rally this summer in the capital of Myanmar. The country, formerly known as Burma, has recently begun to transition from a dictatorship to an emerging democracy. The Myanmar Evangelical Christian Association invited the U.S.-based Teen Mania Ministry to hold an evangelistic rally for 2 nights. Teen Mania says 3,000 committed their lives to Christ. Well, Superbook is now being broadcast for the first time in Hong Kong. Audience can watch it on Asia Television Limited in 3 languages: English, Cantonese, and Mandarin. A special Superbook event was also recently held for more than 700 students at an elementary school. The main theme of the event was forgiveness. Children enjoyed watching Superbook's Jacob and Esau episode, singing the salvation poem, and playing games. They also had a photo shoot with Gizmo. Remember, you can find out more about what CBN is doing around the world by simply logging on to cbn.com/international. It is time for your Tuesday Tweetable, and here is a message we hope that you will post, tag, tweet, and share with your friends. Consider this: you can't be who you were and who you are at the same time. Bottom line, embrace change in your life even when it feels unfamiliar and uncomfortable. You can't keep doing the same old thing if you're looking for new, greater, and better. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here. You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. We'll see you right back here again tomorrow. Make this a terrific Tuesday, everybody.